and welcome to our 21st annual Jewish film series as it continues with our discussion of Sublet with Avi Soffer, we're delighted to have with us. Avi has been an activist in the Israeli LGBTQ community since 1987. He's a former chair of the Aguda, Israel's first LGBTQ-oriented human rights organization. He co-founded Ma'avarim, a nonprofit that supports Israel's trans community. And he's also active in Beit Dror, a shelter for LGBTQ youth at risk. So, Avi, if you can take yourself off of mute, this is going to be kind of a free-flowing discussion, but we thought we could just start perhaps by talking about the film, and then we'll hear more about the current status of LGBTQ people in Israel. So Avi,
hi. Here is good night. So good night, everybody. It's 3:00 at night. The movie, you want me to start with the movie? Okay, the movie is very much a very flat representation. I assume a lot of you have been to Israel. Everything is straightforward. Everything is very flat. I've seen better Israeli movies, let's say that. Because the characters, I'm not a film expert. I'm just a film enthusiast. I love watching movies. The characters at the end are what they are at the start of the movie, and it's not. There are some topics that it touches. If you want to learn some characteristics of Israelis, you can learn it in this movie. The questions they ask, but first of all, let's talk about the most important part of the movie. What do you think of the "to die for" hair on this guy? I mean,
yeah, near head gray.
Where is he coming from? He get up of bed and this hair is like, it's perfect. This really should be discussed. That's the most important point. It represented a hipster kind of neighborhood in Tel Aviv. Everybody that lives there thinks it's like the Soho or the Village in New York. It's not, but if you live there and you pay so much money for the rundown rooms that you will get there, it's a very old part of town. You better think that it is. It's a lot of graffiti in the streets. It's a lot young people going here and there from one cafe to another. Everybody carries their laptop. That's the way it is. It's the conversation. The conversation. I don't know if you probably noticed. Israeli talk is direct. Oh, what do you do? You do this. Oh, how much money you make? Do you have children? He meets the mother, and after 2 seconds, she gives him her resume, and she expects him to give her his resume, and he's, I don't know. This is very Israeli talk. You probably met Israelis, and you know. It's on one hand, and on the other hand, you meet somebody. We have a joke here that you meet somebody in the street, and you ask him, what time is it? And next thing you know, you're invited to his sister's wedding in the evening. It is. Okay, oh, I hear you come to my mother's. That's the way it is. And one of the topics in this movie is the generation difference. Israel is very much glorifying more than anywhere else I know. And let's say the States, which I've been many times, is different. Here, if you're a gay man and you're 35, you are like 100. It's like wow, you're still here. You really seriously, you're still alive. What are you doing here? Anybody who traveled to Europe see, let's say, gay bars. They're very mixed in age. You can see 25 and 75 in the same bar. You can't see it here in Israel. It's the ageism is very prominent here. and within the gay community, and I say gay community, with women it's a bit different. Within, excuse me, I have some kind of a cold, so within the gay community is very strong, and it's very, very very clear in the movie. Like for Amir, the young guy, he's like it's exotic. He's okay. He has some kind of a 3 seconds relationship with a person 20 years his senior. He's not that old. He's not 80, and it's like yeah, it's something exotic. Wow, what an experience do I have? But it's very Israeli. It's very here you can really sense it within the community. Of course, it creates problems of isolation for elderly men. Elderly, I mean 48, not 96. Even the term that I use, you may not use to say elderly men. But within the gay community here, that's the way it is. Another thing that
you were saying, even for heterosexual couples, that there's not, the nightlife is sort of reserved for younger people.
Yes, but in the gay, and I say I don't use the LGBT, etc. Especially gay men. It's clear here. You can see it. You can talk. You see the groups. You see it's very, very. I would even say segregated. Okay, it's very, you go anywhere and you see it's either only young men, and sometimes they, if you go there and you're somewhat older than they are, you're not going to be welcomed. It's a problem here. It's been talked with organizations, and it's been talked about in many walks of the LGBT community, but it is what it is. It's not going to change. The people that founded this country 75 years ago were 18. So it's that's the way it is. The glorification of young men, young brave men, so called.
Another a theme that emerged was that it seemed that for the young man's world was much more carefree. He couldn't understand why the journalist had written this sad book.
Yeah. Look, they talk about the HIV crisis, okay? For many people, even in my generation, and by the way, I might be older than most of you. You don't believe it, I know. Send me the compliments in email.
In the chat.
Okay. For a lot of us, the HIV was a story we heard. It was not something, because back then at the 80s, the skies were not as open as they are. Not everybody would fly. Okay, let's go abroad. When? Tomorrow. Here it's, again, it's very spontaneous. People just fly all over the place because it's cheap. It's available you can be in the middle of Europe for $200. So people just go. And it was not back then. I came out of the closet at the 80s, and I traveled a lot for my work. And I've been to New York. You could see the crisis. And if you were in the Castro, or if you were in the village, you can see it. And then the ACT UP demonstrations, and which I was lucky to be part of back then. Here, it was a story that you heard. It's not something that was, there were cases here. And there was a lot of research here. I don't know if you know it. Big part of the research was done here in Israel. But the French part of the research of HIV was cooperating with Israel. But it was not every day. It was not like my friends in the States or even in Europe, which was even less than in the States. So to begin with, it was something that was just something that happened abroad. Here, it's that people that haven't seen anybody, that never met anybody. It was a theoretical problem, or let's say some parts of society believed it. It was worse than it, but that's the way it was. You couldn't see sick people in the streets, as you can see, as you saw you went in demonstration in New York and you saw the people around you, and didn't.
Is there generational difference also in terms of coming out? When did it become? I mean, it sounded like the older man grew up in a time when it was still difficult to come out.
Coming out, as I said, I came out in the mid or end of the 80s, 86, 87, something like this. It was like unheard of here. It was very rare. There were people, there were some activities, but it was not. Nowadays, the kids, some of them, first, okay, let me clear my answer. The two parts of it. Udi, you mentioned, I work as an administrative manager of LGBTQ kids at risk hostel in Tel Aviv. So for some kids, they run away from home. In some communities, they get kicked out of home. So on one hand, it's as difficult to come out of the closet as it was then. On the other hand, I have grandkids. They don't know what we're talking about. They don't understand. What are you talking about? What coming out? I have kids in my school. I have parents of my friends. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. What's on TikTok? That's the part of coming out. So it's the two things live together. But you come to Tel Aviv, and my daughter used to say, "Dad, I'm never gonna get married here. They're all gay. Where would I find somebody?" So it's like everything else in Israel. It's the both ends of the issue. On one hand, it's no problem at all. On the other hand, it's very problematic. In some of the conservative communities in Israel, I hope it's going to change, but it's very difficult.
We have a question in the chat. Are there demonstrations of this is a little bit later on. You know what, Igor, we'll get to your question in a bit because we're going to talk about so if you could talk a little bit about the current status, I guess the legal status of gay people in Israel right now in terms of army service, marriage, adoption.
Okay, Israel. Any question you ask, even if you ask me in the weather or about the weather, it's not going to be as simple. Okay, this is Israel. Remember that?
Oh, you prepared visual aids.
Of course, this is Israel. It's all black and white. It's all, and any answer I give you from here, there's the other one from here on the other side. Okay, the situation. Military service was it's open for years, since the 92 or something like this. The military service, it cannot be discriminated legally. However, the problem with military is that it's made of 18-year-olds. You know, if instead of recruiting 18-year-olds, they would recruit, let's say, they're 50 years old, there will be no war in the world. Because we're going to have a backache and our knees are not going to be okay. And we say, you know what, leave it for the next weekend. But it's 18-year-old. And who are the commanders? 19-year-olds. So on one hand, it's illegal to discriminate in any way, shape, or form. The military is very, very open, liberal. If a soldier comes out as trans, the military are going to help them with the transition, which is, to me, it sounds a little bit, you need these 2.5 years to do this? The military seems to be unequipped to do that, but they do. They will help and they do anything. And the Prime Minister office has a special officer that takes care of these rights, of LGBT rights. So it's open. So again, I give you this answer and that answer. One end is very open. And the other end, we have the Arab communities, we have the Haredi communities. I'm sure you know, Haredi here is not what you call Haredi. It's not the same. It's like the I don't know, maybe the Williamsburg, maybe. It's more than here. There are some of them, they live in the 12th century, some of them here. So when you ask me about Israel, I always ask which part of Israel, which corner are you asking about? Marriage, there's no marriage in Israel. In Israel, historically, after the Holocaust, it was decided, mistake Ben-Gurion made, we're still paying, that, okay, all the Jewish communities in Europe, the big communities were destroyed, let's keep the Jewish, etc., etc. Since then, it has not been changed because of the crazy equilibrium we have here of like half and half. And so it's only really just marriages. However, because of international law, if a couple gets married outside, let's say we get married in the States, when you're coming here, the state has to recognize it, because one state cannot tell another, I don't recognize your marriages, because if you don't recognize mine, I will not recognize yours. And so if you are married in the States and you come here, you will be registered as married. If you make aliyah and you're married to a non-Jewish person, this person will be accepted as your spouse. So it's all this.
So if
always in these talks, I feel that my answer is like two things contradicting each other.
If a couple wants to get married, they go abroad. Where do they typically go? They can't go to Cyprus. Where do they go?
Yeah, and anywhere close. Some countries allow both foreigners to get married. Let's say Canada or Denmark. You don't, in some countries, one has to be local citizen.
Uh-huh.
Historically, a lot of Israelis has double citizenship. So it's because of the parents, grandparents, and so on and so forth. So you go and get married, you come back, they have to recognize it. There was a court order about it. 20 years ago, the state tried to be against it, but the court says we cannot. It's impossible. That's an official document. It has nothing to do with recognizing LGBT rights. It's just is a foreign certificate of marriage valid in the country? And the complication is going to be, they're going to say, okay, we recognize this, but we don't recognize that. The other countries are going to retaliate immediately. So it's.
What about adoption and surrogacy?
Okay, surrogacy now is open, local here. It's open also for men. Look, I'm a practical person. As an activist, I said, guys, we are just fighting for something that's not going to happen. This is a small country. It's like a small. Do you see surrogacy for gay men in a small city in Wisconsin? If you take out the Arab community and you take out the religious community and you take out the frum community, let's say 5 million. How many surrogates there are going to be? And here now, no parties anymore. Everybody is talking about babies. The big parties are over. The gay community is going bananas. Everybody is carrying babies. You cannot invite people without arranging, is the strolling going to go into the elevator in your apartment? Or stuff like this. It's very, again, this because Israel is very family oriented. And it's kind of a way for, first of all, people, they grew up in families that traditionally had children. And it's also kind of acceptance into the society. But my friends, if they can, even they are in their 50s and over. I have friends that are 56 and they talk about surrogacy. So a lot of them, they go where it's available.
Do they go, that's usually overseas though?
Say again?
Where do they find the surrogate mothers? Are they in Israel?
In America, it's a commercial thing. And it's controlled. It's very expensive in America, of course. But I think that now it's open in Georgia or not Georgia, America, but this country, Georgia. It shifted. It used to be India, then it was closed, then it was Nepal, and then they forbade it, and then sometimes it was Russia, and they forbade this as well. And it moves around. Look, it's not an issue that is concluded. Some people are against it completely. I have a German partner who moved here. Of course, he met me and he couldn't resist it, so he moved here. And he doesn't understand what it is, because in Germany, it's all over Europe, it's completely forbidden for everybody, not for gay men. There is no surrogacy. They look at it as a organ. What do you call it?
Organ donation. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's and even here within the gay community, there are people, LGBT community people say no, it should be stopped.
What about adoption?
What do I know? And this, I really can't. It's very difficult. You know, there is a difference between your opinion on something that is very theoretical, between your brother telling you, I have to have a child, and it's two different things. I don't talk about it. I have 2 children. I have 5 grandkids. I really have no opinion. It's
okay.
I don't know.
What about adoption? Is adoption permitted?
Okay, adoption. Okay, the problem in Israel is that there are very few children to be adopted to begin with. Within the Jewish community, the families will find a solution. We don't have crack babies. We don't, very seldom. We don't have teenage pregnancies like they have in some places, like 15, they're pregnant. Very seldom. It doesn't, and when it happens, it's settled within the family, the aunt, the grandmother. So the fights will be for one of us to be number 10,000 waiting in line. Now, it's not that it's not allowed. It's allowed. You can stay in line. It will take you years because everybody wants a baby. But if you want an older child, which is a problem to be adopted to begin with, because these kids nobody wants. Everybody wants a baby. But if, sorry, just a second. But if you want an older baby for 5, 6, 7, there'll be no problem. The only problem here in Israel is that it's a theoretical issue. It's not like there are thousands of children in the street, and there aren't any. And then there is the religion thing, that a baby should be adopted within the religion. And a Jewish child is not going to be given to a Muslim kind of family. So it's cutting down the numbers. It's very much theoretical issue here.
Okay. So why don't we talk about what are, the politics have been, Israeli politics have been, we're very aware, we're hearing a lot about, some concerns, things that are concerning for LGBTQ rights in Israel. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
For many years in Israel, it's kind of a scale, 50-50 kind of. The 4, of course, are simplified, and excuse me, it's the moment you start simplifying stuff, you're wrong, but there's no way I can go deeply into it. But the 4 major forces, so-called left, I say so-called because it is, and so-called right, and then is the Arab, the Israeli. When I say Arab, I mean Israeli citizens. They call themselves Palestinians, but they are Israelis as I am. They're Israelis, they live here, not far. But just happen to be Arabs. And then there are the ultra-Orthodox. This small, the Arab and the Orthodox are in the middle, swinging. And the 2 large parts, what's called the left and the right, it's a deadlock. It is just a deadlock. For years, it's nothing new. Now the system here is different from yours. Here, they need to create a coalition. Our parliament, the Knesset, is 120. The person that can have 61 is the prime minister. So he has 58, and he has to get the extra 3. And this extra 3 will squeeze him to death. Never mind of which part. We talked about it, Udi. I'm a very adamant student of history. I learn history, I study history, I read history. When the people that create a nation, the revolutionaries who create a state try to run it, it looks like Cuba or like Venezuela. It's not the same people. And this is what happened to us. Israel runs on the fumes of its creation when 70 years ago. The system doesn't work and it has to change. It happened in Germany, it happened in Italy. France, as we see now, is called the Fifth Republic. That's what it's called. It's called the Fifth Republic of France because it collapsed 4 times before they created the system that works now. I think our system must change, and it will, whether we like it or not, because this deadlock is impossible. Now there's this crazy, I don't call him even a religious, because I don't know what kind of religion it is. It's nothing to do with Judaism. It's a very peculiar kind of a person that hates everybody but those who look like himself. And he normally he wouldn't have any power, but he was the missing finger. He was the missing vote. And he is very, very, very anti-gay. Like crazy, he says crazy stuff, really. So would he have power to execute anything? I doubt it. But anything can happen because the other ones, that is so-called, he partners with people that will do anything for power. Like everybody else, by the way. There's no politician yet born who is going to say, okay, I give up on the power. It's not moralistic or it's not fair. There is no such politician. I've been in the Knesset too many years to know that there is no such thing. So look, if you are as many years in activism as myself, you know, we've been in worse, we've been better. People ask me if I'm worried. Being worried and being insulted is not a political tool. It's not, okay, I'm insulted of what he said. Let's go on the barricades. No, I don't think it's the right way to act. We have very strong community. We have over 40 organizations. When I started, there was one. The first Pride that I participated, we were 7 people. Now there are 500,000. So it's not the same. We cannot say, okay, what we did then, let's do now. We're strong, we'll get stronger, and if anything happens, we'll act when it happens. I'm against jumping about every word that anybody says because it wears off our energy, and we need to preserve this energy. And then we have within our community, this is all over the world, in the States as well. There are our so-called leaders who thrive on creating this alarm atmosphere. Oh, we are threatened because somebody said something. Look, if Santos can be elected in the States, come on, guys. The politics is going crazy all over. So I say, let's not waste, and I see the things that's written all over the papers about him in the States, and I say, what are you wasting your internet ink about? Relax a little bit, that's all. And that's what's needed here. It's a combination of politically correct and oversensitivity. We're strong, we are very strong. We can stop the country in 2 minutes. We can just put the country at a standstill. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't know.
Wait,
but I feel ready.
What would that look like? How could you, in what way could you or the supporters bring the country to a stop?
Because we are everywhere.
Okay.
We're just everywhere. All the high-tech companies, everywhere. Look, when we were 7 back then, we had no family members. We had no, look, only my family is going to be 50 people in the streets. It's only this, my family, my direct family. What about the people in power? We have men and women in economy, in the companies, in clinics. It's not that I say, okay, nothing's gonna happen, etc. I say, and I said it, I'm an artist and I deal with art. That's what I do. Besides 5 million other things that I do, I'm an artist. So now I'm curating an exhibition in the gay center that was open in Ramat Gan. You know how many gay centers we have in Tel Aviv? It's crazy. A lot in Tel Aviv, in Israel. In every city, they have something. Mm-hmm. I used to go to every Pride. I can't. It's impossible. We have so many. It's impossible to be in all of them. So I was asked in a radio show about the exhibition, what are you going to do if they're going to close it? I said, I'm going to open 10 more. I wouldn't be able to say it 10 years ago. So I'm ready. I was ready to fight 40 years ago, and I did. And I'm ready to fight now. But the only thing is that back then we did it, we were few. Now, we are not. And yeah, there might be a big fight, not fight, but a big struggle, big, what do you say, Ma'avak?
Struggle. A struggle.
No, I'm not talking about, but look, it's, I don't know, it's the optimism in me. I felt the same 40 years ago. I said, don't mess with us, okay? Each one of us has parents and children and grandchildren and families and where to work, and it's a different story. By the way, look, I want to give you the other side of the coin. I remember when nobody said anything about us because we were not existing. Nobody knew what it is. I was married, I had 2 children, and people would ask, well, what do you mean gay? What are you talking about? You're married, you have a wife. All this. Nobody knew the word. Now we are everywhere. So you mentioned I was a co-founder of a trans organization, even though I'm not a trans person. So we decided we'll do something small in the Knesset. We got a Knesset member a couple of years ago, and we said, okay, let's do some kind of a small meeting. And then we get an emergency call. You have to go through security. 300 people are waiting outside. And then it was crazy. We took over the building. And then a Knesset member, I'm not going to mention his name because of the respect for him that he doesn't deserve. He came to me and told me, where are all these homos coming from? And this explains. These kids now, it's what? They're going to bring us all back in the closet? I don't think it's going to happen. People say I'm naive. Maybe.
Well, I think you have the mindset. You have the mindset of an activist.
Yeah, but look, without this, how would I start 40 years ago?
Right.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy to do it 40 years ago. They're like, nobody understood what we're talking about. We like, if we met in my living room, there will be still room for other people. It was nothing. It was so small. Now you hear the kids. Look, there's something I always say in some parts, beware what you wish for. Chas v'chalila is going to work, okay? The age of coming out in Israel is dropping so much. In the shelter, all of a sudden, we have kids of 13, which means one kid comes to the shelter because they have a problem in the family, 100 are coming out and they have no problem at all. You understand? It's only the small percentage. What happened at school? All of a sudden, the school had to deal with it. The coming age in Israel, the coming out age in Israel is one of the lowest in the world. That's the researchers about it. Mm-hmm. And there's another problem in let's say in America. Okay, they go to college, they come back twice a year. It might be you need to fly home, and that's about it. When you grow up, that's your life. Here, where would you go? It's so small. Everyone is. There's not like you went far away somewhere and they're going to see you once a year. It's not what happens here. And they come out and they stay in the communities. So the social system, the schooling system, everything else has to deal with these kids that come out in scores. They just come out and they said, what are you talking about? It's no big deal. Yeah, I believe in this power. They can take them. I mean, they might be able to take me in my age, and I don't think so. But an elderly person will say, okay, I've done enough. But they're going to take this 13-year-old girl who is fighting with her nails and they put it back. It's not going to happen. I don't think so. And by the way, this is why they act like they act on the other side. It's like a pendulum, because they say, where all these homos coming from? And they feel like they're attacked. One of the largest communities here in Pride or in event is called it's called the Keilat Datit Ge'a, the Pride religious community. In all times, if you were religious, and you grew up in yeshiva, in ulpana, in a school for girls, and if you had any, I'm not talking even about coming out, but if you have any doubt, you either went out or got kicked out. Nowadays, they said, no, we're staying, deal with it. Now they have families. Now the parents fight. They said, you're not kicking my children out of our community. Now every little rabbi in some synagogue, in some village have to deal with it. Before they say, we don't have it in our community. Of course, because you kicked them out. Now they have the chutzpah to stay. They walk in pride. You need to see it. It's very moving. They walk in pride. Of course, everybody with babies all over the place, with signs, with the names of the yeshivot, and yeshiva is for men and ulpana is for girl, with the name of the schools they learn. And mention to the rabbis of these places, you said we don't exist. Forget it. We exist. We are here. I see that Ora is smiling from ear to ear. You know it? You're part of it? It's crazy when you see it. How would they take it back? It's impossible to take it back. It's what are they gonna do? It's so, and then they get scared. As this Knesset member said, where are all these homos coming from? All of a sudden, it's all around. And
so I'd like to open it up a little bit to the audience to hear some questions from other people. I'll just start with one that's in the chat. That someone was not clear why children are coming out at a younger age.
As I told you, Chas v'Chalila is going to work. Look, here everything is big. All of a sudden we have 250,000 pride. How do you hide it? Look, when you are, let's say in America, you drive 1 hour from New York, you're in a rural area for people who never been to the city and they don't care, and we don't have it here. If you have it something so big in Tel Aviv, in Yerushalayim, and all over the place, I'm telling you, in every little city there is something happening. So they can't avoid it. The people are over there. Our IGI is the Israeli gay organization, youth organization. There are thousands of kids, and they bring their friends, and then they go to the youth movements and they talk about it, and then it's just. So one of the people asked me why it is so big. My answer: it's so big because it is so small.
That's right. The country is too small for it to be somewhere else. It's just
there is no somewhere else.
Yeah.
So where would you go? If your mother lives in Haifa and you live in Be'er Sheva, you don't take a plane, and she won't let you not coming every Friday anyway. So it's the way it is.
She's going to deal with it. She's going to know, and she'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Any other folks? If you want to just take yourselves off of mute or put something in the chat.
Udi, can you please just read the questions from the chat that you want to answer?
No, so far, I think I've been keeping up with it. Although early on we had a question if there were demonstrations. Are there counter demonstrations, let's say from the Haredim?
At the moment, no. Normally they come to Pride, but they try sometimes. But look, let's say they try to stop something in some city. Okay, I'm involved in Ramat Gan. I don't know if you know, but Ramat Gan is a kind of neighborhood of Tel Aviv. It's an independent city, but I live in
upscale,
Tel Aviv.
upscale northern
15
Tel
minutes.
Aviv.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes from where I am. So the mayor, he decided that he's going to have a gay center, LGBT center. And he put it in the main street above the most iconic building in the city that everyone in Ramat Gan knows. Then people start complaining. They're calling the municipality, the city hall. We don't understand why there are flags. Next morning, they find their street full with flags. If anybody tears a flag, he said, if anybody tears a flag, your street is going to be flooded with flags for 1 year. And he did. He did. And then asked him, why do you do it? He said, the moment you stop disturbing you, then we don't need flags anymore. So we look for allies. And then he says, it's good for my city. I'm not doing a favor to anybody. And it's growing and growing and growing more and more and more. So I don't know. Everything we do with a bang. I don't know why I can't. I don't know. I really don't know. Why is this different than anywhere else? I don't know.
I think
it's one of the reasons, don't tell anybody, it's only among us, don't repeat me, because we are all Jews. Who were the activists everywhere? Everywhere in the world. Everywhere, even in Europe. It's always the Jews. The sense of we need to break this chain. Right. Everywhere you look.
We have a question in the chat. Is the experience different from LGBTQ people of color?
Okay, here we don't call them. This is very much an American term. LGBT of color. You talk about Black people. Here, the Black people here will be the Ethiopians. It's a very small community. There are maybe 180,000 of them. It's very conservative. It's not American Black people. It's African. And the African culture at large is very, very, very conservative. I've been volunteering in Eritrean refugee program here. I was a volunteer. It's not, conservative is not even the term. You feel like you are back hundreds of years. They use terms, it's hard to understand. The gap they have to jump over. Now they are coming out, but the parents, look, some of them came from places where there's no running water, and we can't even imagine this. They were shepherds somewhere in some hill. Some of them are very educated. Don't misunderstand me. Some of them, they are very successful. They're doing amazing stuff. But the gap for the other generation is 100 times more than what we had to do. The other one is, I don't know what they refer to as people of color. I'm so mixed. If we be busy with describing my family tree, we won't finish in the morning. So, can the person that asked the question tell me what he or she mean by people of color?
So Bob, you want to talk?
Sure. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Really learned a lot. Yeah, and you're right. That's a term mostly here in the US, and it may encompass people who are darkly pigmented. It may incorporate people who identify as Hispanic or Latino. It may incorporate people who identify as American Indian, Native American, or Indigenous, maybe people from different Asian backgrounds. And since there's so many people from diverse backgrounds in Israel, I was just curious whether or not the experience were similar or different in diverse populations.
Like maybe the Mizrahi community.
Okay.
Is it different there?
No, it is referred. It is referred as okay. The Sephardi. Let's say about the Sephardi. If you ask people, they will say spontaneously that the Mizrahim, the Jews that came from Arab countries, it will be more difficult to accept. But it's not correct. It's not correct. I am very mixed. Even my mother was already mixed. And if you ask my kids what your origin is, they will tell you Petah Tikva. They wouldn't understand what you're saying. Really? What do you mean origin? I'm from here. That's it. There is no origin. Look, besides the Arab community, again, even in the Arab community, there are differences between the Christian, 17% of the population of Israel is Arab. Out of this 17%, 15% are Christians and the rest are Muslims. The difference between the Christians and Muslims is immense, although politically they don't present it like this, and it's not politically correct, which I hate PC, by the way. We can discuss it some other time. The difference are day and night. Day and night. They don't, you can't say that because then you so-called question their identity, but you cannot run from the facts. As I told you, I learned history, facts, rules.
If I could just follow up along these lines, I recently learned that here in the States, there are 3 different types of flags that have come out in the LGBTQIA plus community. The Pride rainbow flag, but the trans community has something with blue and another color. And then in Philadelphia, there's a Philadelphia LGBTQ flag with black and brown stripes because they felt here in the States that they were not accepted amongst some of the self-identified white folks. So there's frictions, if you will, even within the diversity of the community. I just don't know if that's similar in Israel or not, other than the generational things you discussed.
Udi, will the recording be used against me?
Not in court.
Not in court. Okay, just between us. I think this flag is abomination. It is an abomination. To select a group, first of all, the whole idea of the rainbow is that includes everybody. If you come under the flag, you are with us. I don't care your color, what do you mean they are not included? Come under the flag. Why select black and brown? I think it's crazy. Look, the most prosecuted gay people in the world now are the Russians. They're really being killed. Are we adding Russian flag? We say, you are brothers and sisters, you're under the thing. I don't understand it. I think it's horrible. This dividing groups, subgroup from this subgroup. And what is brown people? What are you talking about? Look, I'm telling you, when I see this flag, I get a rush. It's horrible. Why do you select these people? I say, no, they need it. Look, the moment you say this is a group and they need a special mark, then there is a mark to be against. No, rainbow, all the colors. For years we said that it's everybody. If you say that's your color, that's your flag, that's your flag. Now they start to divide it. It's horrible. I think it's a horrible idea. And I think a lot of people think like myself. And I think they flight because they are afraid. We are in the area of PC fright. You can't say anything. Somebody is going to be hurt. And hurt became a political tool. Oh, don't say this, it hurts me. My grandmother used to say, then drink cold water if you're hurt. You see, it became a tool. Being annoyed, being insulted, so-called, I don't understand it. It gets here a little, but hopefully we're gonna push it back. That's an American thing. It's horrible, really horrible. And then they fly it in other countries. I see it. What it has to do with you? What? Are we paying for the question of slavery in America? It's against history. I don't understand it. Why would they want to single themselves out?
Okay.
Instead of being included.
All right. And any other good?
Oh
right.
my goodness.
Yeah, I know we got you started. We got you started.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Going once. All right. Well, going twice. All right, well, Avi, this has been a terrific conversation. Well, thank you for joining us. Any closing thoughts, cause, we talked about causes of concern, causes for hope, any things that encourages you about the future?
I believe in doing, and that's what we do now. That's what, just keep doing what we do, and they're not going to prevail. They're not, they're going to talk against us, etc., etc. But we are strong, and I don't know, call it the bug of optimism, but I am. And it's been fun. Thank you very much. It's 4 o'clock in the morning here.
Yes,
Oh,
get some
my
sleep,
goodness.
and thank
Today-
you very much
Lala,
for joining us.
Thank you so very much. Thank
Okay,
you.
Zoom
Thank
applause,
you very much.
everybody.
Good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Thank you for joining us.